this. I'm already happy here. I feel like when I have these mics, how many of you watch, I don't know if you have time to watch daytime TV, but when I do, there's a show I watch at 2 o'clock, Let's Make a Deal. Does anybody watch that? Okay, come on down, it's good. The Let's Make a Deal is good because they have a microphone and they hand it out to everybody, and every time I get the mic, I'm like, ooh. People don't know me that once you give me a mic, what I used to say, I never met a mic I didn't like. How many of you remember when they used to have, like, they put a cane and they'd pull you off the stage like that in the cartoons? And they'd be like, okay, it's your time. Yeah, I'm one of those. The hook, get the hook. When I worked in one place, they'd say, everybody, get the hook, she's got the mic. Get the hook on standby. And I'd be like, yes, I'm sorry. But that's what I'm here to do. But this is a beautiful residence. And thank you so much to Felicia for inviting me here. And she's off making some copies for us really quickly. And I wanted to say, hopefully, we will have our little presentation and then time for some questions and answers. And I'm sorry if somebody is videoing it, just let me know if you need me to stand still, and I'll do my best to do so. But I have a little, sometimes I just feel like I need to move a little bit, right? Don't we all? But from the looks of me, like my sister told me the other day, I told her something about, I'm trying to find a place to volunteer and all that. She said, what you need to do is get back to exercising every day. And I'm like, ooh, how your family can just tell you right that, right? But that's okay, because, I asked for it, I stepped in it. So, well, good morning and welcome. I'm so happy to be here today. I am here to talk to you about transportation. And there's a lot of people in this room talking about transportation. And as I was driving in, I'm like, well, how important is transportation to us all? Huge, right? Huge. Transportation is a huge issue for all of us. I'm Joanne Tobias Molina, and I don't remember that this has my name or anything on that. Maybe I did it like on the slide, so you wouldn't have any information on me. I'm just kidding. In case you didn't like it, you started to boo. But Felicia has it, and I think I have some business cards. I sent them forward, but my time, I have about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe. I don't know, how long do your usually presentations go? 30 to 45? If I see people start drifting off or getting up and leaving, I have no problem with that. I understand, sometimes it's just not working. So I work for a company called the San Antonio Area Foundation. And one of my favorite initiatives is what's called Successfully Aging and Living in San Antonio, or SALSA. We like that, SALSA. There's actually 2 SALSAs in town. One is San Antonio Legal Services. San Antonio Legal Services Association, must be the A. That's a SALSA. And then we're SALSA, and we like to say that we had it first. So our mission is to transform our community by advancing our practices and programs and policies to improve the quality of life for older adults that reside in Bexar County. Good morning, Felicia. Thank you so much for making those for us. Now, Nathan set me up. There we go. So how many of you have ever heard of the San Antonio Area Foundation? All right, awesome. Thank you so much for everything you do to support the San Antonio Area Foundation. The San Antonio Area Foundation is what's called a community foundation. What does that mean? Well, the community foundation is, in essence, every one of them is different. We just celebrated our 60th anniversary, and we have been in town, really started by the Goldsmiths back in 1964, and used to sound very old, but I was born in 64, so I'm like, oh, that's not that long ago. So we were born, made, created in 1964. We are a philanthropic foundation. There are many arms and pieces to the San Antonio Area Foundation. One of the things we're most known for is scholarships. We have a whole division dedicated to helping many different kinds of individuals with scholarships. Another part of our area is with donor advised funds. Some of you may be donors to the Area Foundation. We appreciate what you do. People may have decided that they want to leave a legacy foundation, a legacy to our foundation through a scholarship. And that's where we have some individuals who've started scholarships at our Area Foundation. And then the next section that we deal in is grants. So our community foundation does deliver grants out to the community. And I'll tell you one of the ways we do that is through the legacy of this man. How many of you remember Mr. John L. Santikos? Okay. One time I was in a class and someone said they actually knew him. I said, well, that's really pretty cool. Now let's see how this sounds if I come right back over here. Not too bad. we'll pretend, we'll play a little bit here. So, Mr. Santikos was the owner of the Santikos movie theater chain. Many of you know about his movie theater chain, and it's not just in San Antonio or Texas. They're all over. They have many different companies across the South and some in the Midwest. So when Mr. Santikos passed, he decided well, I like to say this people who were administering his legacy foundation decided they wanted to leave that to the San Antonio Area Foundation. So the San Antonio Area Foundation is the one charged with administering the funds from his foundation. So every time an individual goes to a Santikos movie theater, buys a ticket, buys popcorn, buys a soda, you're gonna see a video about the San Antonio Area Foundation. You're gonna see our CEO up there, and they're gonna be talking about all the wonderful things that we do out in the community through the grants and scholarships. And it's continuously funded by the Jaleel Santikos Charitable Foundation. So every time someone buys tickets and etc., it goes back to the foundation, and then it gets administered back by the community. So that's one of the beautiful things about the Jaleel Santikos gift, is that it's a legacy that keeps on giving. He had some very specific areas that he wanted to concentrate in, and among those areas is older adults. So that is where our little organization was formed, SALSA. And we are about 60 organizations that are part of our net. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oopsies. I forget, and I apologize. When I say oopsies, it's because I've been hanging around the little kids too long. You know, the little babies when they're learning to walk, and I said oopsies. So, my apologies. So we have about 60 organizations as part of SALSA, and about 120 people who are part of our network. And what we do, part of what we do is presentations. So my job today is to do a presentation on transportation. Someone who was here, who is a resident here at this Army Residence Community, saw one of my presentations, was in one of my classes, and said she'd like us to come over and talk and present on what we were doing in our organization. And so what I have today is a couple of objectives. I'm going to be talking about driving safety, and then community transportation options in San Antonio. So I'm going to come back to that. But first off, let's find out a little bit about you. So why are you here? That's a good question.
Age and place.
Age and place. You want to age and place. Great. So why are you here in this class about transportation? Just for fun? Anybody have a particular question, sir?
Just to see what options are available.
Okay. Want to see what options are available for transportation? Anybody else? Well, yes, ma'am. Oh, great. Well, I like that. We're actually like a game show.
I'm interested in finding out about transportation options for residents who are on dialysis and have to go to their clinic 3 times a week. So a recurring need for transportation.
Thank you. That is a toughie. That's one of our, that's a big question. So how many folks in this room are driving? Wow, that's good. That's a big majority of our class. Okay, so we're going to spend the first part of our time talking about being safe drivers. Okay? All of us, myself included, remember, I'm an older adult. I consider myself an older adult. So we're going to talk about the first part about being safe drivers. And then we're going to lead into our conversation about what does it mean as far as transportation options and what is available. I hope to be able to answer the questions that you have brought up. Some are going to be easier than others. Okay? And I promise that I will not have all your answers. Oh, well, thank you for telling me up front. Right? At least I won't be anticipating that. But I will find out. And that's one thing. I'm going to see Nathan left, right? So I'm not sure which one of these is better. You're going to hear in stereo. But let's talk about normal aging. So I took a class the other day, and it was from AARP, and I'm going to be talking about it in here. But one of the things they said was that 54% of the people over age 60 have a cataract. That's me. It's not as bad yet, so I don't have to have the surgery yet, but it's a fact. So what does that mean for me as a safe driver? So here's some just things that we're going to lay out the groundwork, do a baseline setting for ourselves. So these are things from the National Safe Driving for Older Adults, National Institute on Aging. For all of us that are still on the road, right? All of us, we need to take stock of our driving ability to be able to be good, safe drivers. So normal aging can impact our ability to be safe drivers. I didn't think that was true. How many of us thought, no, that can't be me? Not me, maybe other people. Those other folks over there, right? Not me. Until my husband had an accident. And he had a lot of rehab to go on. And then I could see just how much our muscles go into actually being a driver. You ever stop and think about it, what it takes to get in the car, get yourself set, get the mirror set, get your wheels set? It's like going back to like defensive driving. When I was in high school, we did defensive driving in high school. Anybody else have that experience? Yeah, several others? Well, in my high school, it was like a guy that was maybe also part-time coach, part-time this, part-time that. And I remember he told me in our class, look at everybody on one side of you and down on the other side. He goes, one of you isn't going to make it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what an awful thought. But he was just trying to get our attention that you have to be a good, safe driver. Remember what they said when you first started driving, defensive driving? It's defensive driving, not offensive driving. You have to drive that everybody else out there doesn't know how to drive. So we're going to talk about normal aging. We're going to talk about stiff joints and muscles. I have it. My hands, my arthritis, sometimes it just kicks in and it's hard to grip the wheel. Trouble seeing, trouble hearing. These are all things that can impact us. Not that it does, but it might. And so some of the things that we want to do is point out that there are resources for us to think about how we can be safe drivers as older adults. One of the things I want to share with you is, which I think is a very valuable tool, it's called CarFit. Has anyone ever taken CarFit? Anybody ever hear about CarFit? Awesome, something new. All right, so you can say, I learned something new today. I learned something about CarFit. I love it, helping mature drivers find their safest fit. Not the immature ones, right? No, that's a whole nother story. But CarFit is about being a good, safe driver. And it's making sure that you and your car fit well together. It's like, well, what does that mean? This is an opportunity for us. You can do this online, you can do it in person, and there's actually resources available where you can download it and you can take a look at what the material is about driving. Let me make sure that it's on this page, but oops, that's too short. CarFit has 2 different links to it, and you can find it if you Google it. Just go into CarFit, and what they will do, and I want to show you what it looks like when you Google it. It looks like that. That's very difficult to see as purpose, but I want you to see what it's included on there. When you go online, you can go in there and say CarFit Virtual Workshop. You can go online and you can actually get a confirmation about the workshop, and it will ask you some questions. This is what it's going to look like when you go to register. This is what it's going to look like when they actually do the CarFit. Volunteers are going to check for things that you might not have ever thought about. What about the seatbelt? Is the seatbelt in proper position? Are you wearing your seatbelt correctly? I know some of us like to adjust it. I've seen some people put it behind there, don't even really put it across here. They try to make it do, but look at the seatbelt. Look at something that you just wouldn't think about. The tilt of the steering wheel. Can your car, it can adjust. How does that fit? How does that work? The position of the airbag. Who knew that airbags could be so dangerous? Right? Something that's supposed to help us and support us can be very dangerous, especially because they're not made for smaller people, right? Or even very tall people. They're made kind of right in the middle. But if you're shorter, it's going to hit you right in the center. And it's going to cause some issues for you during the accident. And God forbid you get in an accident, but it's going to hurt because of that way the airbag hits you. It's a feature of the design. So we're hoping that people get the idea that they need to expand it on lots of different people and try it on lots of different people. But here's what else they're going to look at. That you need to have at least 10 inches of room between the chest and the airbag housed for the steering wheel. In your steering wheel, there's an airbag in there. You need to have at least 10 inches. How many of you ever thought about that? Now, I know I didn't. I looked at it, I'm like, no, there's no way, you know, it's just not gonna work. But this is what CarFit is gonna do for you. This is a good thing to think about going through it, and it's not very long. It doesn't take a long time to do it, but they're looking to try to help you, help us. A head restraint. Well, I don't like the one that is in my car. You know what I mean? The head restraint back here, when you put it just doesn't fit right. Well, it's not meant to be comfortable, right? It's supposed to help you. The clear line of sight. What about this one? Easy access to the accelerator and brake pedals. That can be a challenge. How many times have we heard on the news about accidents that happen because we've hit the accelerator, the gas, instead of the brake? It's happened, right? And it's a matter of how are we making sure that we can easily get there. You know, sometimes we end up so far up ahead on the steering wheel, we're like practically on it. And so we need to make some adjustments on that. Obviously, things like the mirrors, turning on the keys, things that you need to be able to have to be a good, safe driver. But these are a lot of things that we don't think about because we're busy getting in and out of the car. Here's another example of things that we can use that will make us a smart, better driver for ourselves. It's called the AARP Smart Driver Course. Has anybody ever taken the Smart Driver Course? Okay, a couple folks. What did y'all think?
Let me play Phil Donahue. Y'all remember Phil Donahue, right?
I thought it was very good, brought a bunch of things back to my memory that I had forgotten.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to share?
Anybody?
Okay.
It's a pretty inexpensive course. It's like 3 hours in the morning and then they take a lunch break and then a little bit in the afternoon. There's no real test. They just ask you questions at the end. You do like a practice test. But you fill out a form and send it into your insurance company and you will get like a 5% discount.
Great.
Thank you.
That does not hold true for USAA because I just completed the course and this driver course does not qualify for a deduction.
Do we know why?
We're gonna find out.
I went through 2 representatives and I couldn't get a good, they want you to take the defensive driving
Okay.
class.
Right, there's a difference, yes.
And I
Okay.
think the one that Darlene is talking about is called digital driving, and that's the one that USAA will give the discount for.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. You know, remember at the beginning I said, I don't have all the answers, but we're gonna find out. We learn from each other. That's why we're here, to help each other through this process. But that's very good information to know. And I'm sure USAA has a reason why. I think that this smart driver course, I'm gonna tell you, I took one on, was that just Monday? Wow, that feels like a long time ago. But I took it on Monday. And I took the one for night driving. I don't know about you all, but night driving is difficult. It's gotten more difficult for me. And I'd like to say that it came on all of a sudden, but no, it's not. I know that I have astigmatism. I know you're saying like, we're not here for your therapy session. I know, but I have astigmatism. So I always see around the lights, I see like a halo. And until the internet came along, I thought everybody saw it that way. Wasn't I surprised to learn that no, that's not normal. Some people are looking at me, what do you mean? You know, like, yeah, you know, apparently it's not normal to see that. It's part of the eyes, the astigmatism that we have. So the night driver course, it was only not even an hour. So it was online, it was free. I signed up through AARP. This isn't an endorsement of them or what they stand for or whatever. Now, I'm just telling you the facts. You can look at it, you can see if it fits, if it doesn't, it's okay. But what it did was it went over things that I never really thought about. Things about like the different types of lights, headlights that are out there and why our eyes react the way they do. One of the things that I learned was that I should be using my high beams more often than when I do. I don't like to use my high beams because I was taught that you don't use your high beams, right? Only when you're out there by yourself, not when there's oncoming traffic. So I learned that there's another way to use your high beams that'll help you. But that smart driver course they have one on night driving, which I took, and I'm gonna take this one next when it comes up. These are things that will just help us, like you said, a refresher, a reminder, things that we probably know and have done all our lives, but here's a way to do it, to remind ourselves of how to be a good driver. Okay, here are some things. If we're driving, there are some things that we can do to help ourselves continue to drive it for as long as it's safe for us to do so. The first one is that car handle assist. You can find that easily on Amazon. Does anyone in here already have that device? A couple folks. What do you want to share? What you think about it?
It's very good for getting out.
Very good for getting out, he said.
Standing, if you hook it in the door, you have something to hold on to.
Okay. If you heard it, you put it in the door and then you can be able to stand and it helps you get in and out of the car. Did anybody else hear that or anybody else using it? Has anyone ever seen that before? Okay, so that's another opportunity, car handle assist. You see the way it's designed. You can do this on Amazon, and I know sometimes people tell me, well, we don't buy online and we don't do Walmart. I'm like, I believe that there are some local places that carry it. I've only seen one at Walgreens one time. Ma'am?
I have a Genesis and it came with one.
Ooh.
Oh, the Genesis came with one. I like that. That's very smart on Genesis' part because that could make a difference between buying that car and not. You know, they're thinking forward about having something like that. I like that. I'm gonna have to make a note of that and see what else are they doing to try to keep us as safe drivers. Support handle, transfer boards, all of these things are mobility aids that you can find on Amazon or on Walmart or on Walgreens to try to help you be a safer driver to get in and out, because it could be that we just need a little bit of assistance. So, something that we have that I believe, I'm not sure if Alicia already handed it out, it's called the Driver Planning Agreement. Maybe not, because I think it was a lot of details. This is something that we can get you as far as it's a PDF, so we can download it and print it. But what it is an opportunity to have a conversation with your friends or family about when it's time to stop driving. That's a hard conversation. Some of you in here may have already had that conversation with your family and friends and said, okay, it's time. But how do you get started? When do you decide? It's something that I've been thinking about. Remember, I don't drive really well at night, so it's kind of like, And the reason why it's important, because if I can't drive well at night, what that means is sometimes I limit what I do at night, right? Or maybe in the late afternoon. So that means I may limit my social interaction, which means I might become more socially isolated, which means that can impact my health. I might get a little bit more depressed and feel isolated, that I don't really have a lot of things involved, which adversely impacts our health. And you guys, ladies and gentlemen that live here, you have opportunities to be engaged with other individuals. And there are folks that for not driving is not a big issue. And that's wonderful. But for some people, when you no longer drive, you feel like you're giving up your independence. And you're like, my ability to make decisions for myself and go where I want to go and when I want to go. Sometimes when you're driving, you don't really want to drive anymore. I'm teaching my granddaughter how to drive right now. And I'll tell you, I'm not really doing a full teaching. I'm letting her drive me places, right? And even that was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna let somebody else drive me? All of you may have been through this and said, how do I know and how do I make her stop and not go crazy about it? But it made me think, is like, okay, what is my plan? What is my plan to stop driving? When am I gonna have that conversation? This driver planning agreement, I can get it sent. I sent it to Felicia, and she can make you a copy. She has it already. We just didn't have a whole lot of them. It's about when are we going to have this conversation to stop driving? What are my options? What can I do? How do I start that conversation? So it's a good opportunity for us to have that. Let's see if this works. I don't know if it will, but I'm going to give it a shot. It doesn't look like it wants to. Okay, so we will continue. Now, we're going to talk about resources. This next part will transition us into resources. There is an organization that is designed to help us, all of us in our community, look for resources. It's called SACRED, the San Antonio Community Resource Directory. It is free, it is online, And you can put in any subject that you want to search, and it will search for things nearest you by your zip code. What they're working on now is they're building one that's specifically for older adults. They built one that is for dealing with mental health issues. They're building one for youth. And they have a number of different resources. They have focus groups, they go out, they have people assigned that go in there and update the resources. So the information is very well kept up to date. Sacred. Has anyone ever used Sacred before? A few people maybe know about it. SACRD, Sacred. So if you're interested in transportation or in housing or anything else like that, this is a good resource to start with. Now let's talk about San Antonio transportation options. What do we have in our city? First things first, we all have to agree that in order to live here, you probably need to drive or have a car, right? This is not a very walkable city yet. Maybe soon, maybe one day, but it's hard. It is hard to live here and not be able to drive. My boss is from England, and she tells me her parents never learned to drive. They never had to because they had the metro, they had the bus, they had all these other things. So they never learned to drive. And I remember my mom, she learned to drive later, later back then was maybe she was already 30, thereabouts, And I see some children, and I say children, I have some of my nieces and nephews that didn't learn to drive until they're like in their 20s. When I was growing up, I couldn't wait to learn to drive, right? All of us so we could get out. I don't know, everybody's different, but transportation in San Antonio, you have to know how to drive or have someone to drive you. The biggest contributor to the the transportation in San Antonio is the Via Metropolitan Transit Authority. They are the transit authority for Bexar County. Now, saying that, I believe we all know that that doesn't mean that every part of San Antonio or Bexar County is covered. And I believe, are we in Windcrest? Or part of Windcrest is nearby? Nearby. So Windcrest is an example of a city that does not pay into the system for VIA. Windcrest, I believe it may be Balcones Heights, maybe another one. So it's a political thing, it's an economic thing. So VIA, when we talk about VIA transportation being available for Bexar County, it's not always available for every single person. They have limits. They have to stay within 1604. That's another challenge for them. But they are our transportation authority. That's what we have in this town. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what they offer. Does anybody already use or would like to share that they use Via Trans? A couple folks? Okay. Via Transit is the paratransit service in San Antonio, Bexar County. You have to qualify for it, okay? It is not an automatic thing. You may have seen the buses going around with Via Trans, and one of the things that people may be aware of or think that it is true is that if I am an older person or a person with a disability, then I should probably qualify for Via Trans. It is not automatic, and you have to have a physician to support your application. Is that news to anybody? Is that new? A little bit? Okay, well good, because I was talking to somebody who works over there, and there was a person who applied, and she was 90 years old, and she doesn't want to drive at night anymore. I hear her. Well, she did not qualify for Via Transit because she could do all the tasks that was asked of her. In other words, she could walk the half mile to the bus stop, she could walk and get up into the stairs. There was a lot of the physical things that she could do, so she was not going to be qualified for Via Trans. I hit myself, come on, you can come in. I went like this to really, when I was like, how does she not get qualified for Via Trans? They said she didn't meet the criteria. So I learned something. And it's a shame, and I was really angry for a little while for that lady because I can understand, she doesn't want to drive, I get it. So now we have to come up with other options for her. But Via Trans can be a very economic opportunity, a good option for us if you qualify. There's limits with them as well. You have to reside within 1604 or 3/4 of a mile of a fixed bus route. I really want to know who figured that out, 3/4 of a mile. Who did that? There's gotta be some rule somewhere that says it has to be 3/4 of a mile from a fixed bus route. What they would like people to do, and if you ride Via, you know that this is not a fast service. All right? It is not fast. It is challenging because you have to call, you have to be scheduled ahead of time, and it's gonna take you a little bit to get there because it's not on-demand service. They'll pick you up, they might drop somebody else off, they may pick another person up, and so you'll get to your destination, but it might be, it's gonna take a little bit. Am I right? Longer than a little bit. Sometimes it can be very challenging, and we hear a lot of concerns about this group sometimes, Via Trans. It depends on the driver, like everybody else, right? Depends on who's doing the driving, how fast they are, how good they are. It's tough, but it is what we have in our town. I will tell you that they have an advisory council for consumers of the service. So we have two people that we know that work with us that are on that advisory council. So whenever we hear complaints or concerns, we send it forward because they need to know how they can improve their service. If they're the only game in town, we need to make sure that we're keeping you on your toes. They know I say this, it's okay. They have another service, which is really kind of cool. It's interesting, it's new, it's called Via Link. Has anybody ever used Via Link? Okay. Via Link is different. It's new. It's much more almost like, you can think about it almost like a taxi because it's on demand. It's the regular bus fees. You can see the bus fare is $1.30 per trip. Okay, it's been a while since I rode the bus myself, but you can get a reduced fare for seniors, students, and military. And you can do this and they are in certain areas, not everywhere yet. The closest one here in this area, I believe, is the Randolph area, which is pretty close, kind of close by, a little close by. They have one in the medical center. There's one down on the south side by A&M, Texas A&M, South San Antonio. And they're building one down by Brooks. So there's still a few things. They're only within certain areas, but within the medical center and a couple of the others, but they will pick you up. They'll take you $1.30 per trip. It's a good effort, and they're making progress in expanding it. So that's a good option for us. And at the end, I think I have the phone numbers. This was a video, but video's not working today. So what do we have in terms of our community transportation? So we have providers in our community that do this that are primarily nonprofit. The closest one to this area, I believe, is Northeast Senior Assistance, or NISA. Has anyone ever heard of NISA? No? Okay. It's a small organization, but they have been in business for a very long time. And they are primarily volunteer-based. And I say that because they have people that are part of their organization that have signed up to be volunteers. They've been cleared to be their drivers. They don't charge for their service, which is a good thing. They are available Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. Not a long time in the afternoon, and of course on the weekends they're not available. But the great thing about this company is that they will escort you to your regular appointment, your dental. They don't want surgeries, which I understand because that takes up a lot of time and you don't really know the status of the person after the surgery. But they will stay with you for your doctor's appointment, your dental appointment, and your lab, and then they'll bring you back home. So I think that's a good feature. The phone number to reach them is right there. If you can see it, if you need a minute to write it down, it's 210-967-6372. Now they have a certain area that they will cover. And if you call them and they don't have anybody available for you, they will give you a referral to another organization. Unfortunately, it's not going to cover everything because they may not have someone available. You do have to call ahead of time, but it's a good option. So NISA is one that I recommend. Here's another one that's very good that's available they kind of work together so that NISA has the northeast side. Ride Connect Texas has just about everything else. So Ride Connect Texas is another nonprofit organization. They offer the rides at $5 one way. You can call them to schedule a ride. They work from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Again, no weekends and no evenings, which is a challenge if you want to head downtown or do something. But this is their phone number, 210-558-0007. They are called Ride Connect Texas. And they are probably our company in San Antonio that is growing the fastest. They have vehicles and they have paid drivers, so they don't rely on volunteers, which gives them more flexibility to get people, scheduled and be able to get to their appointments. And they are trying to grow and continue to be a good provider. They were initially a very small company and they've grown up to, I think now they have 9 vehicles, which is a lot for a nonprofit. I'm sorry this is small. I sent the program to Felicia and she can print it out, but the other organization kind of in the Northeast is called Greater Randolph Area Service Program, or GRASP. Has anyone ever heard of GRASP? GRASP? Okay. GRASP has a number of different programs. GRASP has their own senior center, they have a nutrition program, they have different other programs there. So GRASP has an opportunity to provide transportation. Their challenges is that they are very limited, but they are asking us to do I laugh because they wanted 30 days in advance, and I'm like, well, that could be good for doctor's appointments, labs, things that you're gonna have, and then you can schedule them ahead of time. But they will try to work with you at least up to 2 days in advance. It's first come, first served. So you call the phone number at 210-658-3578, and you ask if you have any availability for a transportation for a ride. They also operate 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. They don't do weekends or nights either. They do drop off people for the appointments. They don't stay with you. Now their fees are a little higher based on where they're taking the individual. So they can range from $5 to up to $60 for round trips, depending on where they're going. For GRASP is Randolph, I think it's back this way, all the way. If you're going down to the medical center or down somewhere else that's a little further, they're going to charge you a little bit more, which we understand. And they primarily focus on Converse, Live Oak, Universal City, Windcrest, so that's kind of right down the road, Cibolo, Shorts, and Selma. So GRASP is another good organization, a volunteer-based, United Way agency, and they have, regular donations. So that's what we have in San Antonio as far as community providers. We do have other options available to us depending on our health plans. If you have your Medicare Advantage plan, many of them still offer a transportation component. It just depends on your plan. And it's very specific because the Medicare Advantage depends on what plan you've chosen, how long you've had it. There are so many things that go into it. But some of them do have it, and you can call your customer service line for more details. One of the things that, in terms of the summary of what we can benefit from and transportation, is that we all have to have a say in how we get from A to B. So we want to be able to get from A to B in comfort. One of the things I didn't talk about that I probably should mention is the fact that Uber and Lyft exist. Anybody ever use Uber? Uber, okay. One of the things about Uber, it's expensive. I've had classes where people have told me it'll cost them $40 to get across town. But in a pinch, that's what it takes. Uber is an application that you can use on your phone. It can be set up for you. You can utilize Uber as an application, the same thing with Lyft. And they are based on the drivers go through their process to get hired, they're contracted. You can use them on a regular basis. Most of the time you hear about the bad things that happen with Uber when something awful really happens, right? But for the most part, I think most people have found Uber and Lyft to be very reliable. Now, they don't have to take anybody or everybody. My manager uses a wheelchair. And one of her challenges is that when she calls Uber, she has to make sure they can take her in her wheelchair. And do they have somebody that can help her with the transport? Sometimes they have a right to say no. And the same thing with service animals. They have a right to say no. It's a private company. They can decide, I don't want this fare, skip it, go on to somebody else. So that's a challenge. Uber and Lyft are options, but they're not for everybody. One of the other things that we're working on, I can tell you, is that we are working on something called a one call, one click option we're very much hopeful that we can get everybody, the transportation providers, via all of them to work on the same page. Because right now, everything I gave you, all of these other numbers, you as the individual have to call every person differently, right? Call each organization and see, can you take me this date? Can you take me that date? It can be overwhelming. What we'd like to have is something called a one call, one click, where you call one number and that will get you connected to a transportation navigator who will get you set up. So we've been talking to a couple different companies that are interested in bringing that to San Antonio. We met with one yesterday, it's called Phoenix, and they're doing a similar program in Corpus, and they have one up in Michigan. So it's a really great comprehensive opportunity to get everybody under one roof. Of course, it costs money, but we're trying to see what that would look like. There are a lot of options for driving in terms of San Antonio, where you can go, how you can get there. One of the things that hasn't come to San Antonio yet, and I'm waiting to see what that looks like, are the driverless automobiles. I've seen a few here and there. I saw one on San Pedro. I didn't know what it was, and I had to look. It's called the Waverly or something like that. I can't remember what the name was. It was. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's coming. You know, it's an option. It's up the road in Austin where they're using them as taxis. So who knows? So in summary, what I can say is that we can benefit from safe driver and car fit checkups, because that means we can continue to be a good driver on the road for ourselves. We can make a plan for when we are no longer able to drive ourselves. We have San Antonio has via Metropolitan Transit Authority that you have the fixed bus route. And that's something that they really want to push, the fixed bus routes. They want us to use the bus routes as best we can. Many of the buses have them where they can lower a ramp. They can put that in there. There are also local nonprofit community options in San Antonio. I always say that preparation is the key. If we don't plan, we're not going to know what we're going to do. I had a boss who used to say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's like, okay, yes, I guess you're right. You have to think about, how am I going to get there? But remember, it's not easy, and you don't have to do it all at once. You have to take small steps every day to think about this. And the document you have in your hands, I believe that's the one that I sent to Felicia to talk about when I do call for assistance. You know, can I borrow one of those? Thank you so much. I used to know it like the back of my hand, and then, I didn't. Would I forget the glasses? I forget that my eyes are also, where are they? Okay, the other day, I'm gonna tell you another story. I was like this, and I said to my husband, I haven't found my glasses. I haven't seen my glasses. Do you know where my glasses are? And he made this face like he was so scared to tell me. And he said, they're on your head. I'm like, am I the only one that's ever happened to? Okay. Well, transportation planning. This is a document that we put together to help with your thoughts about, how do I go about this? So the first one that we look at are family and friends, right? Who are my top alternatives to help drive me as an older adult? What am I supposed to ask them? Is there someone available to provide me rides at times that I need to go? What extent are they able to and willing to provide rides? That's something, because we can't assume that they want to do it. Oh my, that sounds awful, doesn't it? I said, well, no, we have to be respectful of their time and their ideas, and we can't just assume that because they are our daughter, granddaughter, what have you, that they're going to be willing and want to do it or feel comfortable doing it. I think that's a question for us to have. It's part of that driver agreement. It's like, are you willing to do this and to drive me where I need to go? And do I need to get some trading? Like, can I make you dinner? Can I give you some money? Can I pay for gas? And then here are the other ones in the center, local programs that offer rides. These are the programs that we talked a little bit about. So we want to, if you're going to call one of these agencies, so you want to find out, is there a cost? What hours of the day are they available? What areas of service? There's a number of questions in here. Look at number 7. You never probably would have thought about that unless you've had to use it before, maybe working on the Via Trans. You know that, is there assistance for people with bags? One of the things on Via Trans is they limit the number of bags that you can take. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's limited to 2, I believe, right now. because they have a limited number of spaces on the bus. And that's something you wouldn't think about. It's like, well, if I go to the groceries and I buy a lot and I wanna bring them on the bus, well, you're limited. So that, you have to think about, well, how is that gonna impact how many times I go shopping, you know? The other ones on the back, demand response services or paratransit, that's like the one we talked about for Via Trans. Private programs, there are a number of private companies in town that I didn't list, and taxi car service, thank you. There's another one in town, he's a private business, his name is Derek Morton, and he rides, thank you, MediRide. That's his company, and he runs it pretty much out of the Northeast, I believe. So that's a private company. There's one up in New Braunfels that's recently started, that is starting to come into San Antonio, Bexar County, and that's called New Braunfels Mobility, that's their name. So there's a lot of other companies that are coming up now that see that transportation is an option to invest in and to provide rides for older adults and persons with disabilities who may need help getting around. Remember, aging is so cool that we're all doing it. Every single one of us, right? We're all aging. You ought to see the look when I say it and people are, say, under 30, they're like, oh, not me. I'm like, no, we're born aging. Hello, we're born aging. We're all aging. Whatever we do to help improve the lives of older adults helps improve everyone's life because it's better for all of us as a community. One last thing I want to say before my time is out, because I'm right about at that time. If you are a resident of Bexar County, I want you to be aware that the City of San Antonio and the County of Bexar have what they call the Joint City-County Commission on Elderly Affairs. Did anyone know that already? Okay. I've done my job, educated you about the Joint Commission, the Joint City-County Commission on Elderly Affairs. Bexar County, the county commissioners, each have a representative on that commission, and each of the city council people have a representative, and the mayor has a representative. Right now, we're in transition because we have had the elections, and so things are kind of like, okay, everybody needs to get settled and reappoint. I'm on there, I represent the city council district that I live in. I live in District 1, which runs from downtown all the way out to the airport. It's right in the center of town. So I serve on that committee. I've been on there a year. And one of the things that's good about it is, my reason in educating everybody about it is, this is for us. This is for older adults. If we don't like the way the city service is running, or the Bexar County services for older adults is running, this is an avenue. In addition to talking to your council person or the county commissioner, this is an opportunity to bring your issue. The meetings are public, anyone can attend, they're posted online. The agenda is always posted 72 hours ahead of time. That's the new rule that just went into effect. And you can go to it and you can bring your cause. It can be minor things, maybe minor things that seem small to someone else, but it could be a major thing. Here's an example of something that we dealt with this year. There was a concern about the type of cups that were being used at the nutrition sites at the city senior centers, because they were not biodegradable. And so we went through a process and found a better cup that's gonna be biodegradable, it's gonna be less expensive, so it's gonna be a win-win for everybody. So there's an example of something that happened. Or it could be that you need more light down the road. So whatever the case is, there is a joint commission for elder adults, so your voice can be heard, because there's more of us than there are of younger people. One thing I didn't go into this presentation is that by the year 2034, there are going to be more people over the age of 65 than younger people for the first time in history. 2034 is not that far away. And the largest group in demographics in Bexar County, the one that's growing the largest, is older adults, people over the age of 60. So remember, we as a voice, we have a voice. We can ask for more services, better services, and for them not to forget us, because aging is so cool, we're all doing it. I want to thank you for your attention. I hope that you took away one thing from here, and I'll be available for any questions. So thank you so much.